Eh. Hello, guys and gals, and welcome. Welcome. So, we are going to be doing some videos today on skills and abilities, and maybe some other stuff too. I'm not entirely sure. I don't have a lot of time, though, because I have something exciting to announce. I'm going to get my new chinchilla today. Um, Mr. We don't know his name yet. Right now, let's just call him Dusty Bones because that's the name I'm leaning towards, Dusty Bones. Although I'm going to put it up for vote with you guys and see what you guys think about the names. I got to come up with a couple other names first, and I'll let you guys decide which name. Maybe you'll comment down below and we'll see if there's any good ones down there too. But I'm going to go pick him up later on today, so I've got about 3 or 4 hours before I can, and then I'm going to have to hop off. But we're going to see how many videos we can get done in the meantime. I know we left off on the Barbarian. I remember distinctly leaving off on the Barbarian. I think the last skill that we did was Leap. I want to say Leap was the last one that we left off on. So we should be pretty much done with the Barbarian. We have to do Leap Attack, obviously, Whirlwind, Stun, and Concentrate. And I'm fairly certain I've already done Berserk. At one point, I can't remember when I did it, but I know I did it. And then we got Bash, Double Swing, Double. I think I've done Double Throw as well. I'm not entirely sure if I did Frenzy. The list for the Barbarian here is growing ever short, and we'll be moving on to another class soon. In fact, you know what? Let's go ahead and add a poll here. And we're going to decide which next class we're going to do. So it's going to be Sorceress, I think, is already almost completely done, but we'll throw her on her anyway. Druid. Amazon is finished completely, so we don't have to worry about her. She is completely done. Assassin. Paladin. Necromancer. Is Necromancer... Necromancer's mostly done. I only have 4 options, unfortunately. Let's take the Druid out because I think he's honestly really close to done as well. And we'll put in the Necromancer. You guys can decide whatever it ends up being at the end of this video. I'll take that as the next class that we're going to be doing videos on. Like I said, keep in mind though that some of these guys already have most of their stuff done anyway. The Sorceress in particular, I'm pretty sure is like one of the most complete. There's very few skills left to do on her at all. If you take a look at my playlists, I do have them up there. And in my playlists, you'll see that each class has a certain number of abilities. Amazon is at 27 videos, so she's finished. Sorceress is at 16, and Barbarian is at 16. They're both about the same amount. Druid is 11. Assassin definitely has the least, so the Assassin's going to take me quite some time to get through. Necromancer is at 10, and Paladin is at 9. And the Necro should be named Bone Zone. Why are we naming Necros? What's going on?
Blessings to you.
What's going on? I was thinking we could start with Leap Attack and then we'll move our way into Double Swing, which is what this character is. This is a Double Swing Barbarian. Let me pull up some reading material here. Leap Attack has changed a lot in the past, and it's definitely a odd ability now. Hmm. I like to do a little bit of research first before I just hop in. I'm pretty sure I have a character set up specifically for leap attack, by the way, which may be a better choice than to play this particular guy. Let's hop over to my leap attack barbarian, who is aptly named Mr. Bunny Foo Foo. Mr. Bunny Foo Foo, hopping through the forest, scooping up the field mice, popping them on the head. And down came the great fairy, and she said, "Little Bunny Foo Foo, you gotta stop hopping through the forest, and scooping up the field mice, and popping them on the head." There's Bunny Foo Foo. Little Bunny Foo Foo, hopping through the forest, scooping up the field mouses, popping them on the head.
Not in town.
All right, this will be a good character for showing off leap and leap attack. And I might want to reboot the game into... Yeah, let's reboot the game into the respec mode so that I can get free respecs on this guy. If you guys are unaware of how to get free respecs on your offline characters, I have a whole video up that shows you how to do it. It's called the 7 Commands. My 7 Commands video goes over the process of showing you how to get free respecs for your characters so you can play around with stuff like this. Boop, boop. It's so bright all of a sudden. The sun coming in here and trying to blind me while I'm trying to make videos. Always. Always. Can't reach. I need a stick. Cody,
Not in town.
become a stick. I'll use a tripod. That should help. Blocks the sunlight a little bit. Sir Foo Foo would be a great name for your new pet. Bunny Foo Foo. Oh, he's missing like a bunch of his doojangs, isn't he? Why has he got a freaking razor tail belt? Oh, it's a weird choice. It's a very strange choice indeed. He doesn't even have an amulet. Here, have a High Lord's Wrath. Why is he missing everything? I must have taken it all away from him for some reason. Alright, so if you guys are unaware of how this works, if you've never been to one of my live recordings before, it's fairly simple. I am going to do my intro. I'm going to, you know, say hello, guys and gals, welcome, and then I'm going to do the video. And I'm not going to talk to you guys because I'm doing a video. And then once I'm finished with the video, I'm going to do my outro. And then after I finish doing my outro, then we can talk again. And in between videos, we can talk as much as we want. But while I'm in the middle of the video, I'll probably ignore that you exist. So, you know, don't feel sad. Let's see here. Leap and leap attack are interesting skills, and I'm definitely going to need some notes here. When a target is not selected and the barbarian does not leap over or land on subtiles directly adjacent to a target within melee range, then the attack animation may not be executed even though the attack is. This can reduce the attack interval to a minimum of 15 frames, the minimum length of a leaping animation. However, achieving this with consecutive attacks to the same target can be difficult even when it's not knocked back. Alright. I think we're ready. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hello, guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. I believe when we last left off with the Barbarian, and we had just finished going over the Leap ability, so might as well finish up by going over the Leap Attack ability. Leap Attack has definitely seen some changes in the past couple patches, and it's no longer the ability that you might once remember. In fact, Leap Attack is actually kind of interesting now. They have changed a couple things about Leap Attack, and we need to go over some of these things right now. So first off is that Leap Attack is now no longer as slow as it used to be. And second, it now has an AoE damage effect, which comes out upon landing. The speed boost, along with the AoE damage increase, has definitely created a more interesting ability in terms of damage output, and created something that is actually usable as a main skill, which is kind of cool. I have played around with this ability in exhausting measure, and I've come to the following conclusions. Yes, it does lots of damage. I mean, I can hit for frickin' 27,000 damage in a single hit. And it also has a nice AoE damage effect, which can be focused on as well. But it does require you to build your character specifically for this effect. Now, the damage, the AoE damage effect, is extremely similar. If you've ever messed around with a Warcry Barbarian, it is extremely similar to Warcry in every regard. It has the same radius. It has the same physical damage effect. However, it is less damage overall when it is maxed out. Now, I've played around with the ability, and I've managed to get the damage up to about 2,000, about 2,500 a hit. And that AoE damage effect, like, isn't going to be enough on its own to really, like, kill all the monsters. But when you leap into a group of monsters, it's certainly going to be useful. Because, like, when you leap in, that AoE damage effect, of course, is having a nice little bump in damage on everything nearby, which is good. It's always nice to have things dying no matter what's going on. The only thing that I noticed that was kind of not really that good about it is that it doesn't really... Oh my god, the fire. It doesn't really do enough damage to kill the monsters before you kill them. It's kind of silly. Of course, he's using a Pride with Firewall. My goal with this guy was just to beef him up so much that he could dish out massive amounts of damage, and I actually did it both ways. One way was to get my skills high as I could to beef up the damage amount on Leap Attack, to see if I could build a Leap Attack Barbarian that was utilizing the damage, the AoE damage effect to kill monsters. And that was very bad in terms of how much physical damage I did with my main attack. However, I was able to get the damage amount of the AoE explosion up to an extremely high amount of levels. And the trade-off here, though, is that by doing that, I ended up with really low hit damage. So you can't really have both. You can have really high hit damage and decent radial damage, but the radial damage is always going to be subpar compared to everything else. Now, another interesting thing about Leap Attack, which is very important, is that unlike with Leap, leap attack doesn't have a distance calculator. So if you've ever played around with leap and leap attack, you will know that when you put 1 point into leap and 1 point into leap attack, you can leap, but you can't leap like very far. There's a maximum limit on your leap, and 1 point in leap is often not enough to get you very far. Like, for instance, if you only have level 2 leap, you can only leap this far. And level 1 leap basically gives you, like, no leap distance. Whereas leap attack doesn't have the same issue. Now, you do have to have a weapon in your hand. Okay, put a weapon in my hand. But when you leap with leap attack, there's no distance problem. So you can leap as far as you want with leap attack, which makes leap attack the far better 1 point wonder in terms of just mobility for a barbarian. So even if you never have any intention of utilizing leap or leap attack for their intended purposes, leap attack is definitely something that you can use as a mobility ability on a barbarian that doesn't necessarily have a large amount of plus to skills. Now, leap is definitely better in terms of its crowd control. When you have leap maxed out, you can do absolutely crazy things like this, which is where you leap around and everything can't touch you. You literally are MC Hammer, literally singing the "Can't Touch This" song. Can't touch this. Can't touch this. Can't. Can't touch this. Now, this does not happen with leap attack. So it's very important to remember that when you're utilizing leap attack, you don't have the same safety as you do with leap. And let me just dump some points into vitality real quick so I can actually survive. When you're using leap attack, the monsters are obviously going to still try and kill you. And they very well will succeed because you're stuck inside of them. And this does make leap attack an inferior ability for jumping around and trying to clear, heavy hostile zones. Whereas leap is far better in terms of its ability to clear these zones. I could even go in here naked with leap. That's just how powerful the ability is. And I could get my body back with leap because the knockback effect on leap is absolutely insane. And the shorter the duration of the leap, the easier it is to force the monsters away from where you want them to be. So keep that in mind when you're trying to consider whether you would want to go with leap or leap attack, because even though that leap attack does not require the same amount of plus to skills that leap does, it also doesn't have the safety, the innate safety that leap does. So it's important to remember that. Now, leap attack does have a synergy now. This is something that was added in, I think it was 2.4.3 or something like that. It has a 10% damage bonus per level from leap. So if you are going to build a leap attack barbarian, you're going to want to throw in 20 points into leap to get that increased damage. And that does bring leap attack up to a pretty massive 1,270%, which of course can go even higher with plus to skills and things like that if you've got a torch. Now it's 1,360, and any plus to skills that you have are definitely going to help, but you're probably better off with things like fortitude, items that are going to beef up your actual physical damage more so than your plus to skills, because I think you'll get a lot better benefit off the actual off weapon ED if you're going for that route. And like I said, there's two different ways that you can go with leap attack. You can build up the damage itself on the hit, or you can build up the damage that comes from the AoE explosion. And to do the AoE explosion, you're going to need plus to skills. To do the physical damage hit, you're going to need off weapon ED. And they're kind of a contradiction in terms, because if you're going to focus on that physical damage, you can't focus on the other. And we also need to talk about how leap attack actually works. So when you're out here and you're actually killing things, let me find some relatively easy monsters that won't fight back too hard. When you're out here killing stuff and you leap at a monster, what happens is when you leap at him, you hit him, and you knock him back. All right, so if you hit the monster, you will knock him back, and I seem to be completely... Hold on. I don't have any attack rating. Let me let me fix my skills real quick, shall I? All right, I need spear mastery. Let's go ahead and throw these dudes in here. Might as well grab some war cries while I'm at it. Beep, 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 beep. Alright, so when you leap at a monster, you'll notice that he gets knocked back when you hit him. Leap attack actually has a knockback effect, which looks very similar to bash. And this was definitely not the correct place to go for easy monsters to bash around. Let's try Black Marsh. Notice that when you hit the monster, they will get knocked back. It's kind of a slow process because obviously you've got the leap through the air, which takes you a little bit of time. You've got the subsequent landing, and then the monster gets knocked away from you, which does make it a little bit more difficult to actually dish out damage to targets. This makes leap attack kind of like a really weird one bonker. That's what I usually refer to Vengeance as. Vengeance is an amazing ability. Don't get me wrong, I love Vengeance, but the damage that it outputs is insane, but at the same time, it's really slow, and you have to walk around bonking everything one at a time. And that's what leap attack is. It's literally a massive, like 25,000 damage with a huge bump in the amount of like double damage that you can get, because you got crit and deadly strike, and you've got crushing blow and open wounds and all of this stuff. And so by the time you actually end up hitting a target with one of these attacks, like, it's usually a one bonk. Like, the monsters usually die in one hit. But at the same time, it takes you so long to literally leap around attacking every target one by one that it's just kind of silly. You know? Like, this ability kind of really works a lot better when you're trying to kill one target. Like PvP, for instance. But the problem with the ability is that you can still get targeted while you're in the air. And I feel like we need to go over some of these things about the in the air portion of this ability. You'll notice that the potions are redded out when you are in the air. You cannot switch weapons while you are in the air. You can, however, block attacks while you are in the air. So while you are in the air, if you are being targeted by somebody and you get hit, there is a possibility for you to block the attacks while you're leaping. You can also, of course, control the leap so that you don't hit anything. The duration, basically the like time that you're in the air. Obviously, if you target your leap directly at your feet, you can go very tiny distances, and it looks silly, like you're a Looney Tunes character. And then if you target really far away, obviously you can go extremely far. You can also leap without targeting a monster by holding the Alt key. However, if you land next to a monster, he will automatically target the monster that is closest to him. So you don't necessarily need to actually click on a monster to have the attack actually go off. He's just going to attack whatever is closest when he lands. So you don't have to be so pinpoint accurate about where you land and what you're targeting unless you're trying to hit a very specific monster. So like if I wanted to hit like one specific monster like this shaman over here, then I could click on him specifically. But if I wanted to just do this and just leap in place and hit targets, then I could just leap in place right here and hit as many targets as I wanted, because every time he lands, he's going to automatically hit whatever is nearby. It's also important to note that if you ever get stunned, This will actually clear your stun status if you manage to activate it. For some reason or another, the leaping process clears your stun. And there's a lot of other little tidbits of information that I'm going to read off here. So if a successful attack happens, the monster is always knocked back. Okay, so it doesn't matter. It's not a variable. It is a guarantee. If your attack is successful, they will always be knocked back. Now there is some distinction upon like how far the monster is knocked back, and it has to do with the size of the target. So smaller targets, sizes 1 to 2, get knocked back further than size 3 targets. So whenever you're fighting like pit lords or like snakes or, you know, like the larger monsters, they're not going to get knocked back anywhere near as far as the smaller monsters do. Let's see here. Of course, leap works exactly as leap does. Leap attack works exactly as leap does, in that you can jump over obstacles that you don't necessarily think that you should be able to. So it's interesting to go into some of these other zones like Flare Jungle, where you have things like the Flare Dungeon. In the Flare Dungeon and like the Swampy Pit and stuff like that, there are these grates that look like you shouldn't be able to jump through them, but believe it or not, you can. And there's a lot of stuff in this game like this that you would think you're not would be able to cross. Like, for instance, this grate right here that you can actually just leap straight through for some reason. And as you play around with leap and leap attack, you can explore these weird obstacles that most players actually can't get through, but you can. Now, granted, a teleporting sorceress can get through any of this, and you definitely can't leap directly over walls. But there are walls that players can't get through that you will be able to just simply leap through. And this is, like I said, it's something you're going to have to explore, because there's lots of different things within the game that look like you shouldn't be able to do it, but in fact you actually can with leap and leap attack. The minimum distance that you can leap is actually 2 yards. Just a kind of a odd little trivia number there. I mean, it doesn't really matter all that much. But as you noticed, when I was leaping the tiniest distance that was possible, 2 yards is the tiniest distance possible. You can't leap any smaller than that. Let's see here. Chance to cast modifiers do not apply while leaping. So if you have things like chance to cast on striking and somebody hits you, nothing that you have on that is a on-striking effect will work while you are in the air. And this is kind of the same thing with Whirlwind. So Whirlwind also doesn't have these things. And if you've noticed, I'm not sure if you've ever actually paid attention, but when you were looking at the way that leap attack reads out your potions, it's the same exact effect that Whirlwind has. So while you're in the leap and the leap attack animation, you're essentially doing the same thing as a Whirlwind. Another interesting little bit of trivia that I found out, which is really annoying to other players, is that when you are leaping, you actually take the place of the place you are leaping from and the place you are leaping to at the same time. So it doesn't actually relocate you. It's not like a teleport spell or something. Like, what it does is it holds your original place where you're standing, and then as you leap, it reserves the place that you're leaping to, and your character is actually consuming 2 spaces on the board at that particular time. And this is entirely annoying to other players that you will be around, because the problem here is that, like, say you're in Maggot Lair and you leap over somebody's head. If you leap over somebody's head, they can't move backwards because you're behind them, and they can't move forwards because you're in front of them. And you can literally abuse this and literally lock a player in place in the Maggot Lair by just simply leaping back and forth in front of them and behind them, and they literally will not be able to move at all, because you are literally consuming both the place in front of them and the place behind them, and they will go insane and start pulling their hair out. Do it to your friends. Movement speed and attack speed are not affected while you're actually leaping. Nothing actually affects anything while you're leaping. So, like, while you're actually leaping, there's no way to make yourself faster. There's no way to make yourself slower. You're just, that's it. You're leaping. Now, after you leap, then attack speed and things like that actually come into play for your subsequent hit. Now, the original frame length of a leap was 15 frames, and I'm not entirely sure that's the case anymore because they did speed up leap by quite a bit from the old days, so I'm not really sure. Missiles cannot normally collide with the barbarian while he is leaping, whether they are static, like ground fires, or fired horizontally or vertically. However, he can still be hit by missiles fired by a ranged unit when directly above it as it fires. Now, what that means is like, pretend that the torch here is a ranged unit. If you leap directly over the ranged unit, the moment that you are over the ranged unit, if the ranged unit is firing, at the moment that you jump over his head, he will still hit you. So keep that in mind as you're trying to leap to safety. It's better not to leap directly over top of the ranged unit because he might still be able to land a hit on you, especially if you're, naked, for instance, and you're trying to get back to your body. I think that's pretty much it when it comes to leap attack. There's really not a lot more to go over with this ability. It's a pretty simple ability. You leap in. Once you land, you make an explosion. And then you, of course, attack the monster, knocking them back, and that's it. And then you can, of course, leap again. It's a fairly cheap investment at 40 points. There are definitely a lot of other skills that have a lot higher investments, like Frenzy and Berserk, and freaking, like, a lot of these have freaking 40, well, I say 60 and 80 point investments. Some of them even a little bit higher. Like Frenzy, if you really wanted to max it out, that's 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 points to max out Frenzy if you really wanted to max Frenzy out. And it's just kind of insane, to be honest with you. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and I know this was a little bit of a long one, but Mr. Bunny Foo wanted to show off his skills. And as always, keep watching. All right. Mr. Bunny Foo is done. What did I miss in chat while I was making my Bunny Foo video? May I ask about the best build for a barbarian? I'm new to the class. I mean, I think, quite honestly, the best build for the barbarian that most people tend to really enjoy is the Berserk barbarian. In combination with, like, an item find barbarian. Like, it seems to be the build that everyone loves to play nowadays, is the Berserk item find barbarian that has a really nice merc that carries him most of the time. I don't really know, like, entirely which one I would consider, like, the utmost best. I'm having a lot of fun with the double swing barbarian right now. The Whirlwind Barbarian is popular, but I don't know if the Whirlwind Barbarian is really considered one of the best builds. I mean, it really depends on what you want to do.
Yes.
I personally don't think Whirlwind is really that amazing. And if you're going to do Whirlwind, I actually find that 2 Ethereal Zotted Flesh Rippers is faster than 2 Griefs. I've played around with it in ad nauseum, testing multiple builds and all sorts of crazy stuff. And the Flesh Rippers just seem to absolutely rip things apart, no pun intended, whereas the Griefs tended to spread their damage out far too much, and most of the monsters just ended up being wounded, and, like, everything was wounded very nicely, but nothing was dead, whereas the Flesh Rippers had a very easy time actually finishing off targets, and just felt like a better weapon in general for Whirlwind. Could I make a series of Players 8 rockers characters? I'm making rocking chairs? Why am I making rocking chairs? I want to make a barbarian rocking chair? I'm so confused. Brr, 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 brr. I need, where is Sanic to Hoojag? Let's grab Sanic to Hoojag. Sanic to Hoojag. Do, 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 do. Boop, 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 boop. Alright, I got swords. And trying to get him set up for double swing. Whee! I'm stupid, okay? Feel bad for me. Characters that can easily farm on player's 8. I mean, P8 builds are a thing. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really a build kind of a guy, my friend. I hate to tell you, I'm just never really been my thing. I don't do a lot of builds. I will show off my characters, but I'm really more interested in showing you guys how to actually make the characters than tell you guys how to make the characters. That's how I like to do things. That's why I make these videos in the first place. All right. Double swing is a really simple ability. Like, there's really not a whole lot to go over with it, but there is some interesting details. Let me pull up some information on it just to make sure that I have everything down. Plus, I'm going to be using this ability as well as my Barbarian's main ability. So I'm going to enjoy this video myself. Oh, already learned something. Look at that. Already learned something.
Not in town. Not here.
Boom, 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 boom. Let's go to the Darkwood. Man, his damage is pathetic, isn't it? I think I'm pretty much ready. There's really not. This is a really simple ability. It's probably going to be a short video, but so be it. All right, guys and gals. 3, 2, 1, let's jam. Oops. Hold on. Hold on. Redo. 3, 2, 1, let's go. Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be looking at the Barbarian skill Double Swing. Double Swing is a deceptively simple and a deceptively good ability in the Barbarian's arsenal, and a little bit of trivia for you, it was actually bugged in the Diablo 2 Resurrected beta and it didn't work properly. So if you did use it in the Diablo 2 Resurrected beta and you were a little underwhelmed, well, they fixed it. It's not broken anymore. So what is Double Swing and how does it work? Well, Double Swing is exactly as it seems. You have two weapons, and with two weapons, you swing those weapons, obviously, 2 times. It is a double swing. When you are attacking one monster, it will actually attack that one monster twice. However, if you're attacking 2 monsters, it will attack both monsters 1 time. You notice that as I attack, I'm switching back and forth between the monsters. I'm going 1, 2, 1, 2. However, if there's only one, I attack this one monster with both weapons. So it's very important to notice this distinction between how the ability works, because when you're in a big group of monsters, you're not going to be able to focus your damage as well as when you are obviously with a monster that is by himself, because you're going to have 2 times the damage going into that one monster than you have when you are with other monsters, because you're only going to be hitting him with 1 sword. It's also important to note that the mana cost on Double Swing applies to each swing, not the total swings of both. So when it says 1.5 mana cost on the ability, it actually means 3 mana, because it's costing you 1.5 and then 1.5, and it adds together and takes away 3 mana total for the ability. However, Double Swing has a very beautiful hidden effect, which is when it reaches level 8, the mana cost decreases to the point where eventually it costs nothing. So after level 8, it literally costs 0 mana per swing, which doesn't matter about the whole double mana cost thing, because once you've leveled it up enough, you have a very nice 0 mana cost ability, which you can use at any point, like for instance if you run out of mana, which is absolutely amazing. And if you make this your main ability, Double Swing, since it costs no mana, you don't have to worry about mana leech in your builds, which is really cool. Double Swing, however, doesn't have any damage bonus on it. When you level it up, it doesn't matter how high it goes, you'll notice that there's no damage increase on Double Swing. It does, however, have a synergy with Bash, and if you level up Bash, you can get a damage increase from Bash itself, which then stacks onto Double Swing for a total of 200% at 10% per level, 20 levels times 10, so you end up with 200% damage increase strictly from the Bash ability. So if you are going to utilize Double Swing as a character, you definitely need to level up Bash to go along with it. Now, the beauty of Double Swing is that Double Swing is also a synergy for a couple other abilities. It is a synergy for Double Throw, which means that by leveling up Double Swing, you also end up with a very nice damage bonus added to Double Throw if you're going to be a Throw Barbarian. I would definitely recommend using Double Swing as a Throw Barbarian as your alternative melee skill. And it also happens to be a synergy for Frenzy, which is another plus. So if you're going to build into multiple trees with Double Swing can be your sub-skill or your main skill, doesn't matter what, and you can have Double Throw or Frenzy as sub-skills or main skills along with Double Swing with relative ease, because you can build into multiple abilities with it. Another interesting thing about Double Swing is that it actually is really fast, and it doesn't require much IAS to increase it to its maximum potential. Because of the way the ability works, you actually usually only need a very bare minimum of attack speed to actually reach the fastest possible speed of the ability. If, for instance, I have a Barbarian online right now, which I'm leveling up with Double Swing, who is using 2 Zotted Flesh Rippers, and I'm going to have to hop out here so that I can bring him up. But he actually has only a bare minimum of, I think it's like 40% IAS, and he's already at his highest level of IAS with those particular weapons. which is pretty crazy when you think about like a paladin or something like that without fanaticism. If he's trying to hit like 4-frame zeal, is going to need, you know, like 150% increased attack speed to reach the same levels of speed. Now this guy is completely unfinished, so don't judge him too harshly, but he is actually doing pretty nice for being unfinished. And as you'll see, his damage output is pretty sweet, although he's not as fast as Sanic the Hedgehog, which is rather unfortunate. Sanic the Hedgehog is just too fast. Let's see here. Let's go to Far Oasis. That sounds like fun. And this is hell difficulty that he's in right now, and as you can see, he's pretty much like 1 or 2 shotting most monsters. Ow! Get this in there. And Double Swing is just really interesting because the lack of any kind of mana cost, the very fast speed, combined with the minimal equipment requirements, makes for a very interesting build for the Barbarian. Now, granted, it's not AoE, and, well, the Barbarian doesn't really have a lot of AoE abilities, and this is really just something that's an issue with this particular character in general. The entire Barbarian tree, for the most part, is, well, it's basically just single target damage. Even Whirlwind, when it really comes down to it, is really just a single target attack that hits really fast. And he's a barbarian. I mean, that's to be expected. You know, he swings a weapon. The weapon has to connect to a monster's head, and that's it. Which is kind of a downside for him because all the other characters in the game have these big AoE abilities. You know, like Frozen Orb and you know, hammers and Fist of the Heavens and freaking crazy stuff like firewalls. And meanwhile, the Barbarian is over here. He's just steadily swinging his weapons away. You know, trying to do his absolute dangedly dangdest, and that's about the best he can do. And when it comes to melee abilities, Double Swing is definitely one of the better ones on this tree. In fact, it's so fast that usually you don't even need Frenzy to to really even like complement it. In fact, I kind of want to show you the difference between Frenzy and Double Swing right now, just kind of like to give you an idea of how slow Frenzy is by comparison. So this is Frenzy, and that's max stacks. And this is Double Swing. Look at how much faster Double Swing is than Frenzy, even with its max stacks, on the same character with the same IAS. And it just doesn't even really make any sense how much faster Double Swing is than Frenzy. But it is. It is so much faster than Frenzy in pretty much every way. And I'm pretty sure that I actually checked this already, but I'm just going to, like, say it. Double Swing's already at its cap. Double Swing doesn't get any faster. Like, I've already hit the IAS cap on this, you know, like a long time ago. And I didn't realize it because, you know, I thought maybe, like, it would get, like, a little bit faster. But it doesn't. It's just, it hits the IAS cap so easily that I've taken off a lot of my IAS and I'm still at the maximum speed, which allows me to do things like put on a G-Face, Fortitude, you know, like String of Ears instead of something like Nosferatu's Coil. Laying of Hands is really just for the demon damage. I don't even think I actually need the IAS. And of course, if you were using a faster weapon than Flesh Ripper, like for instance, if you were using a Grief in a Phase Blade, Grief is a -30 base, and Flesh Ripper is only a -20, so it's 10 faster. Grief also has IAS on it, which means that they're very likely, if you were using 2 Griefs with a Double Swing build, you probably wouldn't need any IAS at all to hit the maximum breakpoint for IAS. And if that doesn't tell you how fast this ability is, I don't know what can. It's a deceptively simple ability that is actually really, really good. And if you are a Frenzy Barbarian, you might even want to take a look at Double Swing because it might actually be better damage overall than your Frenzy. You can, of course, build frenzy stacks with slower weapons. So, like if you were using two very heavy hitting weapons, like, I don't know, two Colossus blades or something like that, maybe like Breath of the Dying Colossus blades, or like Death Etten axes, or whatever other crazy weapons that you could come up with. You could, of course, utilize the increased attack speed on Frenzy to reach the maximum breakpoint on Double Swing, essentially using Frenzy to build those stacks and then using Double Swing for your main damage ability. In fact, that's kind of the cool thing about a lot of these abilities on this side of the tree, is that Double Swing, Double Throw, and Frenzy are all kind of interchangeable because they all work with two weapons, of course, and you can just simply have them, on swap. And like I said earlier, Double Swing does, in fact, obviously synergize with Double Throw and Frenzy, so working it into one of these builds is surprisingly easy. I think that covers pretty much everything about Double Swing. It wasn't really a complicated ability, and I didn't think this video was going to last that long anyway. As always, thanks for watching, and keep watching. All right, so that's out of the way. I'm pretty sure I already did Double Throw and I already did Frenzy. I'm just going to double check real quick. So, beep. You're getting withdrawals from not playing Diablo 2? Why are you holding out? Holding out for the next season? Let's see. Barbarian. I did Throwing Mastery. I did Double Throw. I did not do Frenzy. I did do Double Throw, though. Yeah, I actually talked about that during the video.
It is an honor to serve you.
Absolutely free. Absolutely nothing. Say it again. Hell yeah. Free. No mana cost. Oh yeah. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Yeah, say it again. I don't need no freaking mana cost. Don't know. God, do I really want to do a video on Bash? A powerful blow that increases down the damage done to enemies and knocks them back. The fact that it knocks monsters back is already like a downside. It's already a downside. Death doesn't have CB, it has Deadly Strike. It's, what is it? Like a Deadly Strike based on character level. Yeah, 50% Deadly Strike. No, well, yeah, I got 50% Crushing Blow as well. Yeah, I guess. You could definitely do a dual death, double swing barbarian. You'd need a little bit of IAS to counter the slow nature of the Etten axes, but you could. Unfortunately, though, I don't really need CB. Because I already have 75% chance to Crushing Blow, and 60% Open Wounds, and 63% Deadly Strike, along with 30% Crit Strike. My character is literally capped out on just about everything he needs. And you know why? Because frickin' Flesh Ripper is stupid. 25% CB, 33% Deadly Strike, 50% Open Wounds, Prevent Monster Heal, slows target 20%. The thing is insane, and it has negative 50% targets defense, which means that as I'm running around killing things, like, they have basically no defense left. A negative 50% to their defense means I really don't even need anywhere near as much attack rating to hit the targets. Boom, 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 boom.
I need a key.
Who do you think you're resin over here? Wait a... I don't know how much damage I'm doing because I have some modifiers that are hidden. Like I've got the 350% damage to demons is hidden, and then of course they don't show you the crit strike, the deadly strike, which is basically at 100%, and then like I'm not really seeing how much the open wounds is doing, and the I'm pretty sure like my damage is kind of insane right now. I'm probably doing around like 7k a hit. Not even counting the crushing blow. And like, obviously it's double swing, so it hits most monsters twice unless I'm in a big group. So you're talking like a 14k damage, like per swing. I guess I could do bash on this guy. It's gonna be a really short video, I'm gonna tell you what. It's gonna be very short. Let me pull up the Amazon Basin article on Bash, see if they have any good information that I'm not aware of. Character screen displays plus damage as being applied after plus damage %, but it is only applied after damage has been applied to the target. Consequently, it does not increase the damage, but is still taken into account when calculating life returned by % life steal, life tap, and mana returned. Mana stolen per hit. This means that life and mana can be returned even when attacking an immune to physical target, provided life tap is cast on the target and he has drain effectiveness less than 0%. What? Life is being returned by a % life stolen per hit with bash, despite the hell temptress being immune to physical and taking no damage. Learn something new every day. So bash has a damage bonus mechanic that is 23. So it just has 23. And according to what this is saying, if I've read it correctly, the damage plus number is not being applied at the correct point in the calculation, and instead is being applied after all the calculations are done and being added in as if the damage has been done to the monster when the damage actually hasn't. So when you're attacking an immune to physical monster, the monster is returning life to you despite the fact that you're not actually doing any damage to him, which sounds really interesting. Let me see if I could lure a ghost over here and test this out, shall we? There's no ghost over there. Let's try the other side. You have a Hell Diablo question for my next short? Yeah, we're gonna test this out. Trying to find an immune to physical monster. I need some ghosties. Arcane Sanctuary is usually a good place to find ghosts. Okay, here we go. Got a couple ghosties. So according to how this works, when I attack them with my regular attack, I should not steal life, right? So no life being stolen. Of course, I have cold damage and stuff. Hold on, let me take off Ravenfrost. Is there cold damage coming from somewhere? Let's make sure I don't have any elemental damage. Okay, there's one. Here's another. And I'm still dishing out cold damage. Why am I still dishing out cold damage? There's no cold damage on this, is there? No, there's no cold damage written on the ability. No cold damage on the ring. Do I got another cold damage charm sitting in here? Yes, I do. Okay, there it is. Alright, so according to this, I should not dish out damage to the target, right? So I can't dish out any damage to the target. However, according to this, if I use Bash, I should be able to steal life from the target, even though technically I don't have damage output. Although that was weird. He looked like he was taking damage. Oh wait, the crushing blow and the open wounds will still hit them, right? Well, I'll be damned. Learn something new about Diablo every day of my life. This game is insane. Alright, let's save this Spectre for the video. That's actually really cool. Something actually interesting. Some people will click on the video and be like, Bash, nobody cares about that stupid ability. That ability sucks. And then they'll be like, wait a minute, you can steal life from physical immune monsters? All right, well, let's start this video. Let's do Bash, shall we? I need an energy drink. Let's do a power boost. Ha 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 ha! Power boost. Vegeta power boost energy drink. Taurine and B12 and pantothenic acid and potassium and niacin and yes, I don't normally drink these, but I saw them at Five Below and they got like Dragon Ball Z characters on them. One of them is called Spirit Bomb and the other one's called Power Boost, and I got them. I'm gonna drink them and then I'm gonna put the cans up on my my little shelf. I'm probably never gonna buy any more of them because I'm not an energy drink drinker, but. Ruh-roh. Ooh. That one bites back. That one bites. This is my Diablo pullover, by the way. It says Diablo right here. It's got little D's on the inside of the hoodie, and then on the tag it actually says, "Not even death can save you from me." I love it. Shut up. It's mine. You guys are jealous. You guys are jealous. Oh, nice little dryer sheet. I was wondering why my elbow felt weird. A little warm down there too. All right, let's do bash. Let's get this over with. I'm trying to think whether I should go to a offline character for this so I can beef up the synergies. It does have a stun and concentrate synergy, which is damage and attack rating per level. It's not really a lot, though. It's only 5%, which what ends up being 100% when it's capped out. Let's do this. Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be looking at the Barbarian skill Bash, and hey, don't turn off the video just yet. I know it's an ability that nobody likes, but I have something to teach you about this ability that you probably don't know. Bash is a very simple and deceptively silly ability that you walk up to a monster and literally bash them in the face, and after you bash them in the face, they run away and, you know, they get knocked back because you hit them so hard with your basher ability that they have no choice but to be bashed backwards like this. That's right, I will bash you into the wall. Now, Bash does have some synergies. It does have a 5% damage per level from stun, and it has a 5% attack rating per level from concentrate, which does make this an interesting ability for a concentrate or stun barbarian, or both. And it also is the synergy for double swing, so if you are going to build a double swing barbarian, like my double swing barbarian here, you're going to have to put 20 points into Bash. Now, Bash has a couple things that go up on it as you level it up. Number one, it gets a attack rating increase. And number two, it gets a damage percentage increase. And then number three, it gets a very odd damage plus number increase. The damage plus number is actually the part of the ability that you probably have no clue about, because it's weird, and it doesn't work the way that you think it does. The damage plus number actually applies after everything. For some reason or another, when the damage calculation is being determined, the character screen, of course, is lying to you. It doesn't actually apply the 23 damage at the beginning of the calculation, at the middle of the calculation, or even like towards the end of the calculation. No, it actually applies the 23 damage at the very end of the line, after everything. And this means that it has a very weird ability that a lot of people aren't aware of. When you are fighting a monster that is physically immune and you try attacking that monster, one thing that you will notice right away is that, well, you cannot steal life from the monster. The monster is essentially immune, right? So you are unable to actually dish out any damage, and because you can't dish out damage, you can't steal life. But because of Bash's strange ability that allows it to dish out its damage at the end of the calculation, it actually functions as a form of lifesteal on monsters that cannot be stolen from. So when I attack this immune to physical monster with Bash, you will notice that the lifesteal proc modifier is actually appearing above my head because the damage modifier, the 23 damage that's on the ability, is actually being applied at the end of the calculation, and is allowing me to steal life from a monster that I should not be able to steal life from. Which means that as a double swing barbarian, a concentrate barbarian, or any of the above, you can utilize that strange damage modifier to survive in encounters with physically immune monsters that you would not otherwise be able to. This makes Bash a very weird ability in the Barbarian's arsenal that it actually comes in kind of handy in certain situations. Now, granted, to get this, you actually have to level up the Bash ability because the plus damage modifier doesn't actually have a lot of damage otherwise. So let's go to a Barbarian real quick, and let's play around with how many points we would have to put into Bash to get the effectiveness out of it. A little bit of power boost here. No, really, it says power boost on it, see? It's Vegeta. Vegeta power boost Genkai! Shut up. So let's go ahead and reset this, buddy. And it looks like it goes up. Let's see. It's at +8 right now. +9, 10, 11. So it looks like we go up +1 damage per level. And that is, unfortunately, the only way you're going to be able to get that mystical, magical lifesteal through the physical immunes. That plus damage effect is not actually affected by the plus damage % modifier that's on the ability. So to get that magical number, you have to actually put hard points into the ability, and that's the only way it's going to be useful. Now, granted, if you have a lot of plus to skills, like for instance, if you're wearing a lot of equipment that has plus to skills on it, you've got your Annie, you've got your torch, maybe you're wearing a Bolt Kathos ring, whatever it may be, you're going to be able to get that a lot higher than you think with only just 1 point in it. Because, like, for instance, if I just go ahead and throw some points in strength here, you'll notice that just 1 point, I'm already sitting at 14, which is not bad. And, you know, just a couple points into it could bring it up to like 20 or 30 and probably still make it pretty useful for dishing out damage to targets that are physically immune. Let's go play around with it real quick in Arcane Sanctuary and see how well it works with just 14 points. Do I got this set to P8? I probably do have it set to P8. I usually do. These characters are not normally set up for P8. They're just set up for testing purposes. So I don't want to like make things unnecessarily hard for myself. We got some ghosties here, which is exactly what I need. So I should be able to steal life from these ghosties with the bash ability. Of course, I need some mana potions. I totally forgot about that. Hold on. We can just drink a row of these.
I've heard.
I always hate how Drognan doesn't refill your mana. It always feels like such a con, considering that he sells you the mana potions to begin with, that he doesn't actually give you any mana. So it looks like I can still effectively steal life with this, even in the 14. It's not like the greatest or anything, but it works. It looks like to really get the best benefit out of it, if you wanted to use it for stealing life from physical immunes, would probably be to max it out. Because it does look like to me that it's not doing quite as much as it was on my double swing barbarian. Let's try it with the maxed out version here. It's not a lot. It really is not a lot of lifesteal, that's for sure. But it does in fact steal life, which is kind of funny. Bash. Now, let's talk about Bash a little bit as an ability, just for the fun of it. Bash knocks targets back. This is not a good thing in PvP. I mean, sorry, in PvP. This is not a good thing in PvE. It's not a good thing when you're trying to kill monsters. Most of the time when you're a melee character, you don't want to knock the monsters away from you. It's silly. Why would you want to do that? Which makes Bash more of an ability I think you would use when you're trying to stay alive. Like, for instance, if you're in the middle of a whole bunch of monsters, you could rotate and use Bash to keep the monsters away from you, which is something that I've actually done before with Bash as a, like, survival ability. But I feel like if you're going to go for a survival ability, you're probably better off just getting Leap. But just as a funny kind of, like, a show of how the ability works, let's just stand in the middle of a bunch of monsters And we're just going to, like, try to knock the monsters away from ourselves like this. So you're just, like, sitting here knocking the monsters away from you one at a time. And as you knock them away, you go to the next one that's close to you, and you just keep knocking them away from you. And in this way, you prevent the monsters from getting off as much damage because you're knocking them away in sequence. Then they have to run back to you to take another swing, and you would basically be preventing them from dishing a large amount of damage to you in that time period. Now, the problem with this, though, and that I've noticed with knockback abilities when you're trying to do this specifically, is that if you are surrounded too much, if there is a monster behind the monster that you're trying to hit, well, they don't go anywhere. They're not going to get knocked back if there's nowhere for them to get knocked back to. And this is a way that you can utilize knockback skills or knockback weapons to your advantage is, number one, find a wall to knock the monster back up against. Number two, you also can knock the monster up against other monsters, in which case they won't be able to move either. And for instance, Smite, which is a paladin ability that has knockback on it as well, is kind of in the same boat. You would find a monster and you'd knock them back up against a wall, and when you knock them back up against a wall, they just get headbanged into the wall. They can't go anywhere. And so if you're going to use Bash in that regard, you're going to want to do the same exact thing, which is position them so that they're getting knocked up against the wall. Now, the cool thing about this, though, is that as they are knocked up against the wall, let me get a weapon that's a little bit less damage. As they're knocked up against the wall, you don't necessarily have to worry about... Let's use this one. That sounds like fun. You don't necessarily have to worry about them anymore, because when they're up against the wall, they can't move. They can't do anything. As they're getting knocked back against the wall, they're stuck in a never-ending cycle of knockback. And I'd like to find one of the big boys out here and show you what it's like to kind of just like headbang lock a monster into the wall. And here we go. We got one of these big boys. Let me go ahead and throw my bash on. They're going to headbang knock me into the wall. Hey, 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 hey. Freaking holy fire, holy freeze, butt face. I don't like it. He's trying to be mean to me. Of course, I can't hit anything with this one. Come over here. Well, this weapon is a lot higher damage than I thought it was going to be. I picked this weapon because I was like, hey, you know, let's pick a weapon that's a low damage weapon so I can show you what it's like to headbang a monster into the wall. But no. One of the issues, though, with this is it really just doesn't do enough damage compared to other abilities. If you're going to compare Bash to something like Stun, Concentrate, Berserk, like these abilities tend to do a lot more damage just in general. Berserk obviously is a non-physical damage ability. Concentrate gives you some nice defense buffs. There are definitely some very interesting other abilities besides Bash, and they don't knock back the targets, which is actually kind of nice. Stun also doesn't knock back the targets and will give you the same kind of effect that Bash does if you're knocking a monster up against the wall. And you don't have to knock them up against the wall because Stun will literally stun the monster, and then you won't have to worry about having to headbang them into the wall. Overall, Bash is just a mediocre ability from the very beginning of the game that does well as a synergy for some more important abilities, and has an interesting quirk that allows you to lifesteal through physical immune characters. But overall, it's not an ability that you're going to generally build a character around. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when we're talking about a silly skill like Bash. And as always, keep watching. Alright, Bash is finished. Moving along. Moving along, long, long. It's a long, moving along, long, long. Like a Jesus said. I had a character that I set up specifically for Whirlwind, and I can't remember what the character was. It's been a little while. I had tested him out with everything back when Whirlwind was changed, and it's been so long. I spent a long time testing out all of Whirlwind's abilities, like different weapons, just like everything that I could think of when it came to Whirlwind. And I'm pretty sure that I had a character set up specifically for this. 2.4.3 patch out today. Let's test out the changes, Whirlwind changes, lobby fixes, and more. Yeah, this is it right here. What character did I use for the Whirlwind fixes? That is a Claw Assassin. I was probably testing out Chaos. IK set. Apparently I was on IK set. Okay. Unfortunately, that means IK set gets used for everything, so chances are the stuff that I used in the video is probably gone. Category on my stream here is Diablo 3. My bad. I was streaming Diablo 3 Darkening of Tristram yesterday. So that's why that's up there. Yeah, he's missing like everything that he needs to properly do anything. I'd like to show off Whirlwind, but he just doesn't have the equipment that he needs. Alright, let's take this off. It's got a freaking CTA on one hand, a Last Wish on the other. We're gonna have to give him some weapons here. I need a couple different weapons to show off how the Whirlwind ability works. I can Bogart one of them from Bunny Fufu. Bunny Fufu actually has one of the weapons that I need, which actually might be how he obtained the weapon in the first place. This is offline, so I'll be fine. I'm gonna show off all the different things, including a Breath of the Dying Warpike, which is one of the better weapons for spinny boys. Let's go ahead and grab a High Lord's Wrath for him just because. I don't know if IK set has a Barb Torch. Let's give him that one. I'm gonna have to pull up Hero Editor for a minute and edit in the items that I need. We're gonna dance, dance, dance. Like Jesus said, we're gonna dance, dance, dance. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Do 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 do. Beep 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 beep. Boop do 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 do. The hell's he got on him? Bunch of junk. Bunch of junk. Alright, clear. Do 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 do. Alright, we're gonna throw 2 griefs on here. Phase blades, where they at? Grief phase blade. And then we're also gonna throw on the my personal favorite, the F Flesh Rippers. Zotted, of course. Then we're also going to import a Breath of the Dying Thunder Mole. BOTD. Where's my big old boy, Thunder Mole? Big old boy. We got the big old boys, and they're making some noise. Got the big old boys just making some noise. What else do we need for a Whirlwind build? I need an item specifically just to show off how the IAS works with the with Whirlwind. So we're going to import an item which is just going to give us the IAS that we need. So I'm going to throw in something crafted, something special. So I'm going to grab a pair of boots. We're going to throw in some Gore Riders, and I'm going to edit them so that they have IAS on them. This is strictly for demonstration purposes so that we can look at the difference between how IAS affects Whirlwind, which should be pretty fun. Beep. And we're going to go ahead and throw in 107% on the Gore Rider, or the Gore Riders. And that should be it. Let's just go ahead and copy him over. That's pretty much everything we need for demonstration purposes. Boom, 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 boom. All right. Pasted. All right. Video items 4.
Good day.
Good day. Whirly boy's gonna make some noise. We got the whirly boy's gonna make some noise. Come on down to the whirly boys making some noise. We're gonna whirlwind everywhere with our toys. Let me do a little bit of kind of like, do I have armor for him? Yeah, that's like a JMod creation. Just give him a IK armor. Doesn't really matter. He's already wearing most of the IK set anyway. Might as well just cap it out. And I would like to pull up the Amazon Basin on Whirlwind, but I'm pretty sure the Amazon Basin on Whirlwind is wrong. At this point, we're in uncharted territory with when they made all the changes to Whirlwind and how they made it so that IAS could affect Whirlwind. Like, all those changes have definitely affected the way that Whirlwind functions inside the game, and a lot of the old guides on Whirlwind are just they're just wrong. They're very, very wrong. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need to set up on this guy before I... Oh, yeah. Let me just go ahead and do this. Mace Mastery, Blade Mastery, Spear Mastery. That way I have all the masteries already set up. This way that when I'm testing the abilities, make sure that you guys are actually seeing the correct numbers. You know, 20 in Spear Mastery doesn't affect a Mace weapon, 20 in Mace Mastery doesn't affect a Blade, and so forth and so on. So as I switch back and forth between these weapons, I want to make sure that I'm maintaining the maximum mastery. This is one of the reasons why he has more skill points than he's supposed to. This way he can actually still put out the kind of damage that he needs. Let's also remove attack rating from the equation for this particular scenario. So we're going to go ahead and just throw like a bunch of points into dexterity here. The only reason I'm doing this is so that he has, you know, basically a massive amount of attack rating, so we don't have to worry about his attack rating for this. And then we'll go ahead and give him the, like, max shouts so he can survive. He's going to need it because his HP sucks. 1500 should be sufficient enough for him to stay alive during these tests. And I don't want to put any points into Whirlwind yet because I want to show off how it levels up. Mana cost. I need a specific belt to show off something with Whirlwind. See if I can find that real quick. I should have edited it in, but I did not. It's most likely on my belts mule. I got a lot of mules, okay? I got a lot of mules, all right? Be jealous. The belt. This is the belt, by the way. Ain't no belt better for a Whirlwind Barbarian. I don't care what nobody says. Ain't no belt high enough. Ain't no belt good enough. Ain't no belt sexy enough to take me away from you, night smoke. I'll explain it during the video. I think we're just about set for this dude, Janker Ranker. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I need before I can finish. I got the Warpike, I got the Flesh Rippers, I got the Griefs, I got the Breath of the Dying Thundermaul. I have the Gore Riders, I have the Night Smoke. I need the Last Wish. There's the Last Wish. Alright, we're gonna need the Last Wish to show something off. Specific, very specific. I think that's it. I think we're gonna start it. This is gonna be a little bit of a long one, I think. Anyway. I'm not sure. Maybe it won't be. Maybe your butt stinks. Maybe you need to wash it. How about that? Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. I don't know why I say it like that. Today we're going to be going over the Barbarian skill that's probably seen the most changes and the most love and the most hate over the years, and that is Whirlwind. Whirlwind is a very strange ability that doesn't really work the way that you think it does, and maybe through this video I can demystify Whirlwind for you a little bit, explain some of the new mechanics with Whirlwind, how the ability works best, and maybe what is the best weapon to use with it. Whirlwind, first off, let's just go over how it levels. So you'll notice that right off the bat, we only have about 30% damage increase, and it has a mana cost of 12.5, which is kind of insane. And it drains mana ridiculously quickly. So as we level it up, we have to obviously put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points just to get our first level of this ability, which is a lot. It's a lot of points to have to put into to get to Whirlwind. And you'll notice that even after putting 1 point into it, and with 7 plus the skills, I'm only at 90% increased attack rating and 70% increased to damage. And the mana cost has increased to 16.5 from 12.5. The mana cost keeps going up. And as you level up Whirlwind, you get very paltry increases in damage and very paltry increases in attack rating, but the mana cost continues to increase exponentially, literally to the point where at level 27, you're costing 25.5 mana, not per attack, but like per second. It's because when you use Whirlwind, it doesn't work the way you think it does. Like, it's not like, okay, I'm just going to use Whirlwind and that's it. It's almost like you're casting an ability every time Whirlwind is utilized. So let me figure out. Like, I guess you Canyon of the Magi. So when you tap the button, that is one use of Whirlwind, right? So when you just go boop, that is a use. All right. So if you hold down the button, you can utilize huge amounts of mana with Whirlwind extremely fast. You can burn all your mana away in next to no time whatsoever. And for this reason, Whirlwind is just like crazy when it comes to its mana consumption problems. You are going to need a large amount of mana steel to make up for this. And on top of that, I would recommend a healthy amount of damage taken goes to mana. Damage taken goes to mana is pretty much like the best way to deal with the huge mana cost problems with this particular ability. Because as you are whirlwinding through the monsters, if they hit you at any point, you will regain large amounts of mana for every single time that they are bonking you. And this allows you to sustain those very heavy whirlwind mana costs relatively easily. And even if you run out completely, you can just let them hit you a couple times, and your mana will start to come back relatively fast. Now, the way that damage taken goes to mana works, if you guys are completely unaware, is every time you are hit, it will take 50% of the damage that was dealt to you and add it to your mana. A lot of people, for some reason or another, and I don't know why, because it never said this, a lot of you have assumed that 50% damage taken goes to mana meant that it would take away mana from your mana pool instead of your health. But it doesn't take away mana. All it does is if you take 100 damage to your health pool, you will still take 100 damage to your health pool, but it will divide that in half, and it will go, okay, well, since he took 100 damage to his health pool, we will take 50 mana and add it to his mana pool. Damage becomes life, but you still take the damage. And so as you're whirlwinding, you're going to be able to sustain your mana pool a lot easier utilizing items that have high amounts of damage taken goes to mana. Now, 50% damage taken goes to mana is a ton, and it's usually more than you will need on a barbarian as you're leveling up. And the super ridiculous high mana cost on Whirlwind pretty much requires you to use large amounts of mana steel along with damage taken goes to mana to fix a lot of those issues. In fact, if you've never used a Night Smoke on a low-level character like a paladin, a druid, a barbarian, any characters that have relatively low mana cost requirements but have, are actually in there in melee getting beat up on a regular basis, Night Smoke makes most of those problems go away for a very long period of time, by the way. Now, when it comes to this particular character utilizing Whirlwind, there's a large number of weapons that you can go with. But it's important to note that Whirlwind doesn't actually do what it says. So you would think that the barbarian is just swinging his sword around his head, and he's just like slashing everything around him in some sort of AoE damage effect. But that's not actually what Whirlwind does. Whirlwind is actually just a very fast sequence of attacks that go off ridiculously quickly and will hit a single target or any target that is nearby in that time period that you pass. So for instance, if during this time I attack 30 times, so I'm literally stabbing the air 30 times, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I move from point A to point B, any monster within that field can get hit by those 30 attacks. Okay? Now, if there's 30 monsters and I pass through 30 monsters, each monster might only get hit one time. If there's one monster and that monster stays with me the entire time, he could potentially get hit 30 times. But the number of times that each monster is hit is dependent on how many times you attack when you're passing them. And in the past, your attack speed with Whirlwind was determined by your weapon, and only your weapon. But in 2.4.3, they changed Whirlwind so that attack speed could be modified by increased attack speed from items. Like, for instance, the 25% IAS that is on my gloves, the 15 or 30% IAS that is on my Mortal King's Crown, the things like High Lord's Wrath that have 20% increased attack speed on them. All of this will have a bearing on how many attacks per second the Whirlwind ability is actually doing. Now, if I switch to a slower weapon, like the Breath of the Dying Warpike or the Breath of the Dying Thundermaul, these are very slow weapons, and they're very high damage. But as I'm passing by a monster with these weapons, what you will notice is that I don't really get off as many attacks per second as I do with the faster weapons. So, like, if I were to go over here to Frigid Highlands and have a little bit of fun whirlwinding, you'll notice that I can hit maybe like 1, 2, 1. Like I'm passing through and I'm hitting a target, but a lot of the monsters are not getting hit as I pass through. So it's more like 1 or 2 hits per pass, which means that I'm doing a really large amount of damage to that one monster that does happen to get hit as I'm passing through, but not as much to the group. And this is kind of one of the problems with Whirlwind, is that when you attack slowly, you don't really attack as many times, which is why a lot of people tend to gravitate toward weapons that are faster rather than slower, because the faster weapons will hit more times as you're passing by, dishing out more damage to the area effect. As you can see, when I'm swinging my little flesh rippers, the monsters are getting absolutely annihilated because I'm tapping them many, 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 many times in that same time period as when I'm going through with some of the bigger, more exhausting weapons. Another issue is range. So range complicates this entirely. So already, when it comes to Whirlwind, as we were discussing earlier, the monsters are only getting hit a certain number of times as you are passing through. So if I only, say, make 5 attacks with my spear as I'm passing through a group of monsters, then I'm going to hit however many monsters are within range, maybe, 1 time or 2 times each, depending on how many monsters there are. However, if I'm using a max range weapon like Breath of the Dying, which has a range of, I believe it's 5, which is the Warpike is a 5 range weapon, which is absolutely insane, by the way, I'm going to have a chance to hit everything as I pass through, which means that my damage is going to get spread out even more to even more monsters, to the point where literally I'm hitting basically everything once, but nothing is really actually dying in the process. Let me find a nice big group of monsters here to show you what I mean. We got some bugs. Here we go. We got some bugs. We got some doodads. Let's get them all nice and grouped up here. Probably going to kill me, but that's okay. And we're going to whirlwind through them. And one thing that you're going to notice is nothing really dies. The more monsters there are, the less dies per second, because the damage is being spread out so much that you've got to sit here and you've got to keep whirlwinding back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and eventually something will die because the damage is getting spread out so much from the long range of the weapon that it doesn't really do as much as you would like. Now, switch over to something like the Flesh Rippers in a very similar situation, and what you're going to notice is that despite there being a huge number of monsters, the Flesh Ripper will still kill monsters very effectively in those large groups because of the short range of the weapon combined with the fast speed means that it's going to be able to focus its damage on those targets and finish them off much more quickly. We'll see if I can get another group going here. Not quite as big as the last one. All right, here we go. We've got a couple more. Let's get them all nice and corralled. Now, as I go through them with the Flesh Rippers, what you're going to notice is they're going to die really fast. It's going to pick off each individual target as I'm passing through because the damage is more focused on the individual monster. Because of the short range of the weapon combined with the fast speed, I'm hitting one particular monster a large number of times as opposed to everybody like once. And this is the reason why I found the Flesh Rippers to be one of the most effective Whirlwind weapons in the game. Number one, because they're one-range items. So that means that their damage is focused very, very tightly on the target that you're actually trying to hit. Now, there is obviously other options, like, for instance, Grief is also a very nice Whirlwind weapon. And Grief has a 2 range when it's in the Phase Blades. However, when I was testing between Grief and Flesh Rippers, I often found that Flesh Rippers were faster than Griefs because the Griefs would spread their damage out a little bit too much within the groups, and the Flesh Rippers would focus it a little bit better. But as you can see, both the Griefs and the Flesh Rippers are very good at focusing the damage on the smaller targets, on the individuals, getting that damage into the monsters and making sure that it's actually killing them, as opposed to spreading it out the way that the larger, longer range weapons do. Both of them extremely effective, as you can see. Now, we also need to talk about some other things when it comes to Whirlwind. Most namely is what Whirlwind does when you're actually in the Whirlwind effect. So when you're in the Whirlwind effect, you cannot do anything. You cannot switch weapons. You cannot drink potions. You cannot chance to cast. You cannot chance to strike when monster hits you. You cannot do a lot of things. There is tons of things that do not work when you are in Whirlwind. However, there are some things that do. Very interestingly enough, one such effect, which I think is the only one that actually works, is Hits Blind's Target. I don't know why Hits Blind's Target works and nothing else does. But Hits Blind's Target does actually work while you are in Whirlwind, and it works very well. And it is one of the abilities that I would recommend if you want to make a very effective Whirlwind Barbarian. Now, there is a particular item in the game that does have Hits Blind's Target on it that I can show you right now, and that is Last Wish. Last Wish is super expensive, but it does have Hits Blind's Target on it. So I'm going to hop into one of these tombs real quick and show you what I mean. Notice, as I'm whirlwinding, I am applying Hits Blind's Target. I don't know why specifically Hits Blind's Target is the only effect that actually works with Whirlwind when everything else has been disabled, but it works, and it works extremely well. And I also think that Hits Blind's Target is also very interesting from a certain perspective with Whirlwind because it shows you how the ability works. Because every time you hit a monster with Hits Blind's Target, it applies the Hits Blind Target to the monster. It shows you more accurately how Whirlwind applies its damage. So as I'm whirlwinding through the monsters, you see the monsters have the Hits Blind's Target applied to them. And you notice that it's consecutive. You can actually physically see the hits being done and the Hits Blind's Target being applied to the monsters as I travel through. Now, granted, Hits Blind's Target doesn't work on bosses, so that is a rather unfortunate thing. But it certainly does make for a much safer whirlwind, because as you are whirlwinding through, you don't have to worry about taking as much damage, because the monsters are nice and blinded. Which means all the ranged monsters, all of the caster types, are going to just sit there and do nothing as you whirlwind away, whereas the melees will sit there and do nothing and not chase you down. However, it is important to note that when a monster is blinded, the monster can still attack you if you are within their light radius. So let me see if I can find a monster real quick and blind him just for demonstration purposes. One of the big old beasties down here would work really well if I could find one of them. Well, this guy will work. So when he is blinded, as long as you are outside of his light radius, you're fine. You notice how he has a very tiny light radius when he is blinded. And then when he is unblinded, all of a sudden he can hit you. If you walk within his light radius, he will still attack you. So this is important to note when it comes to the blinding of monsters, is that when you're whirlwinding, if you don't want to be hit by a specific monster that you've blinded, you have to make sure that you don't go through them. Now, you can go around them. This is interesting because if you do have a longer range whirlwind item and you were using, say, a Last Wish in it, you could potentially use the range of the polearm to whirlwind around them in a circle, blinding them and keeping them blinded the entire time while you're whirlwinding. But with shorter range weapons, you would have to whirlwind directly through them. Now, due to the number of massive hits, as we're talking about, because Whirlwind applies so many hits so quickly, Whirlwind becomes a very interesting thing to apply effects with. So there are a lot of different things that you can apply as a melee character. You can apply Crushing Blow, which is very, very nice, of course. You can apply Deadly Strike, which is going to double your physical damage. You can apply Open Wounds with your Whirlwind, which is also very nice. Prevent Monster Heal, slows target. All of these things can be applied by Whirlwind as you are whirlwinding through. And, of course, some of them have better effects with speed. So Crushing Blow and Deadly Strike both get a huge bonus when it comes to how fast you attack. So the faster you attack, the more damage you're doing. And the more times that you can apply those hits when it comes to Crushing Blow, the more damage that you can put out. So having a large amount of Crushing Blow with Whirlwind is definitely very, very useful. As nice as Griefs are, Griefs don't have any Crushing Blow. So if you're going to run dual Griefs, you're going to have Crushing Blow from other sources. Like, for instance, your boots, maybe some Gore Riders, maybe a very nice, like G-Face. Maybe you'd be using something like Duress. But in general, you're going to want to build Crushing Blow, and, well, since Griefs don't have that, it doesn't really work out very well. On the other hand, things like the Eth-Zotted Flesh Ripper does have a very nice 25% Crushing Blow already, and if you combine that with some Gore Riders and a G-Face, you'd be up to probably around like 75% Crushing Blow with relative ease, which means that when you're attacking monsters, those ridiculously fast weapons, they're going to get ridiculously Crushing Blowed into oblivion. Now, IAS does affect Whirlwind tremendously at this point. And I've prepared a hacked pair of boots. Yes, I know. They're hero edited in. They have 100%, 107% increased attack speed on them, which is a lot. And I just want to show off the difference between something like Breath of the Dying with the increased attack speed and Breath of the Dying without the increased attack speed. I'll go ahead and put this right here. Because Breath of the Dying is by far... Actually, which one is slower? Is it the Thundermaul? I think the Thundermaul is slower than the Warpike, isn't it? It's been a little while. Let's go with the Thundermaul. I think the Thundermaul is the slower of the two. All right, so we're gonna play around with the Thundermaul real quick, and I'm gonna show you the difference between the IAS and without the IAS. And this is gonna give you an idea of how many times a monster is getting hit with this particular weapon. So as you can see, this is without the IAS. I'm trying to whirlwind through this group. Nothing's really dying all that much. I might get a kill here or two, but in general, like, it's just not fast enough. And let's go ahead and throw the boots on. This is going to bring our total IAS up to 222%, which should bring us close enough to what we need to be. Let me go ahead and throw these buffs up here too. And with the IAS, what you're going to notice is that I attack more times per second as I'm going through the monsters, which does equate to more damage. So you can see even the maggots are dying quicker because I'm hitting each individual maggot faster. These particular Erdars are a little spicy, but in general we have more damage going out because I'm attacking quicker, which means more strikes per second as I'm passing through them. Now, the Thunderball's really not the best choice here. I actually really prefer these Flesh Rippers, and the Flesh Rippers also get the same benefit from the IAS. Now, there is a maximum cap on the number of attacks per second, but it definitely helps to have the fastest attack speed when it comes to Whirlwind, because that's going to give you your highest damage output. Another thing that you got to note here is that if you're using a big weapon, like the Thunderball, for instance, it's better to attack on the edges of the army. So what you want to do is you want to actually kind of like move around the edges and utilize the weapon's range. Let's switch to the max range one here. And what you're going to do is you're going to kind of like move around the edges of the army, the monsters that you're fighting, and not necessarily go through the center. This is important when it comes to Whirlwind, because if you're moving directly through the center of the group, you're going to have your damage get spread out way too much. Whereas when you move around the edges of the group, you can more readily focus your damage on the monsters that you're trying to focus your damage on. And with max range pole arms, you can really Whirlwind like this way with excess. As you can see, I'm just kind of like grazing the edge of the monster pack, trying to make sure that my damage is being applied to as few monsters as I can at any given time. Now, I don't prefer to do my Whirlwind this way. I prefer to do my Whirlwind with the smaller weapons so that I can focus my damage on the targets that I want to focus my damage on. And I feel like it works better in general to be able to focus that damage on specific monsters this way. That way you can get in there, you can actually focus your damage on what you're looking to kill, and when it dies, it dies. And of course, those monsters are just ripping my mana away. I freaking chugged every mana potion in my inventory.
What do you need?
Buy a whole bunch of mana pots. Revenge of the mana potions. Now, this monster right here, he was almost dead. I mean, he would have been dead eventually. God bless it. Why are they so good at stealing mana? He's mana burn, isn't he? Stone skin, extra strong, mana burn. He is mana. Oh, magic resistant. Never mind. Stop knitting me sweaters. I don't care about your stupid sweaters. Now, what I'm trying to show you guys here is how Whirlwind doesn't really put out the damage that it should. It's a fantasy, right? Like, Whirlwind is a fantasy. It's the fantasy of the spinning top barbarian that hits everything around him in a circle. And basically what I'm trying to show you guys is that it doesn't actually work that way. That they don't actually hit everything as they go through. They just hit a certain number of times as they go through. So, for instance, even when you're using something like Grief, notice that we still have issues with physical immune monsters, like this particular one. But when it comes to these particular monsters, you're not hitting everything. And I think this is one of the biggest issues with Whirlwind, is that it doesn't really live up to the fantasy that Whirlwind has. Like, when you think about a Tasmanian devil like barbarian spinning around and like whirling blades you kind of like in your mind are thinking about a barbarian or like a character that is hitting everything as he passes through, like a giant shuriken that's been thrown by Naruto and Sasuke, you know, and like at like Mach 17, and literally just hits everything as it passes through all the monsters. But that's really not quite the way that Whirlwind works. There are some other things about Whirlwind that have been fixed, by the way. I feel like I should probably go over some of those. So in the past, there was a broken weapon glitch where if you had a weapon that was broken in your offhand, you could trick the game into thinking that you had two of the same weapon. That no longer works. In fact, quite a large number of the old Whirlwind bugs that you may or may not know do not work anymore. The new system has completely changed the way that Whirlwind functions and basically allows Whirlwind to actually utilize increased attack speed from, you know, off sources at this point. And also, you know, the base weapon speed also matters, but you definitely can make even something like the Breath of the Dying Warpike, which is extremely slow, into a much faster weapon. I think the main issue with the Breath of the Dying Warpike is not necessarily that it's slow, it's the range. I think the range is really the biggest issue with it. Because if you put it in a shorter range weapon, it tends to do a lot better. Now, I'm sure that I've missed something. With the new changes for Whirlwind, I'm not even going to be naive enough to say that this video is like a complete tutorial on Whirlwind. In fact, if any of you guys have any comments that you'd like to make down in the comment section about Whirlwind, things that I've missed, feel free. If I see something important, I'll pin it to the top. As always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, even when it's a 27-minute video on Whirlwind. And as always, keep watching. Alright, Whirlwind is out of the way. We got the whirlwind, we got the whirlwind, we got the wind of the whirling. Yeah, the doll explosion does not work against mercenaries. One of the most common ways to deal with dolls is just to let your mercenary deal with them. That's a pretty well known thing. I have that. I have that in my video on dolls. If you guys have not seen my deadliest, my world's deadliest video monster doodad. I can't even remember what the hell I frickin' titled it now. What is it? What did I call it? Deadliest or something like that? Yeah, there it is. Deadliest Monsters, the Bone Fetish. If you're interested in learning more about the Bone Fetish or the Stygian doll or whatever you want to call it, I have a comprehensive video for you guys on the Bone Fetish, teaching you all about how the mechanics work, how to avoid the damage, and honestly, if you when you watch that video, when you're done watching it, you should have a much better understanding on how to survive encounters with the bone fetishes in general. There are a lot of characters that can almost completely ignore the bone fetishes. There are definitely some very interesting ways that you can just simply not worry about them. Certain characters have a harder time than others, and there are certain abilities that are like booby-trapped. You definitely don't even want to use those when you're in the bone fetish areas because, well, like things like Lightning Fury from the Javazon, like Fireball, stuff like that. There's tons of different abilities that will get you killed really fast when it comes to dolls, and it has to do with the fact that they often travel in packs, and the explosion that they have can obviously multiply in those packs. So like when a pack of 5 of them pops up on you and you throw a javelin into them with lightning fury and you pop all 5 at the same time, all 5 explosions go off, there's a much greater chance that you're going to die versus a barbarian who only kills them one at a time, for instance.
Greetings.
What do we have left? We've got Frenzy, Stun, and Concentrate. There's only 3 skills. 3 skills and we're finished with the barbarian completely. Unfortunately, I have next to no experience when it comes to stun or concentrate. I don't think I've ever built a stun or a concentrate barbarian in my life. I've heard of people building concentrate barbarians. Maybe I should just start with Frenzy for now. Seems like a good choice for the moment. Let me pull up the article on Frenzy so I have that ready. Deadliest Doojanks. Doojanks. The Doojanks. Krubus. Krubus a boobus. Boobus a boobus. He's like, what? What do you want? He's so silly. Krubus a boobus. I think Frenzy. Yeah, let's do Frenzy. Let's get him set up for Frenzy real quick, though, so I don't have to do this while I'm doing the video. Let's just go ahead and run. I like my dual Eth Flesh Rippers. Let's just run Blade Mastery. Let's go ahead and work our way down to Frenzy and put 1 point into it. Let's go ahead and grab the shouts, because I'm probably going to need them. Let's go ahead and tack some points into Strength so I can actually wear my equipment. PvP Fist Barbarian. I've my hacked boots. I'll put those in there. I don't need those on me right now. Attack rating is pretty low. Actually, I don't even have the Frenzy skill on. Okay. I mean, I haven't leveled up Frenzy yet, so there's that. And I still need to pull up the article real quick. I'm going to do a little bit of research myself just to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Yeah, I already know that. Yep. Already knew that. Sequence cannot be interrupted by blocking, casting, hit recovery, being knocked back, or stunned. Sequence. What does that mean, sequence? That's interesting. I didn't know that. So apparently the percent bonus that comes from Berserk that suggests that it's a bonus magic damage that is added on top of the physical damage for a frenzy is actually not bonus damage, and instead is actually conversion damage, which means that it actually takes away physical damage and adds magic damage instead, but doesn't actually add anything on top. So, like, you know, for instance, like, let's say I said I was going to add 20% more pizza to your box. And you're like, okay, well, that sounds really cool. I have a pepperoni pizza. Well, I'm going to add 20% more cheese pizza, right? And then you open up your box, but instead of a full pizza and a couple extra slices, you just have a full pizza with 2 of the slices are now cheese. So it's not actually giving you anything. It's just taking what you have and converting it, which is a little less impressive than I thought, and I didn't actually know that. Magic damage conversion occurs after +% damage and critical hit from weapon mastery, critical strike, deadly strike are applied, and before resistance is applied, damage resist won't affect converted magic damage, but magic resist will. So yeah, okay, so it works. It basically works the same as Berserk does, like 100%. My dog's looking at me like I'm insane. He's like, I'm trying to sleep. I'm gonna throw something at your head. How about that? I threw a piece of cardboard at him. He looked at it funny, and then he looked at me, and he's like, "You mother! I'll kick you in the butthole." Right in the butthole. I think that's pretty much everything. Beep, beep. Calculator inaccuracy for frenzy attack speed. There's recently been a debate on Diablo2.net's beginner frenzy barb thread about the attack speed calculator that was inaccurate for frenzy. After the initial argument, the formula produced the same breakpoints has been resolved. What the hell's going on here? Has confirmed that all calculated breakpoints for double swing with various combinations of phase blade, colossus blade, and colossus sword, including those with weapon increased attack speed and the known bug when the primary weapon is equipped in the right weapon slot, as well as the level 20 frenzy breakpoints when equipping 2 weapons with the same speed modifier and no weapon IAS. However, when 2 weapons with different attack speeds were equipped, or one of the weapons had IAS, the actual frenzy breakpoints were different to those calculated. It looks as though the right weapon slot, left weapon slot, is always used to calculate frenzy attack speed in some way, regardless of whether the primary weapon is equipped first or in left or right weapon slot. It also looks as though the weapon IAS on the secondary weapon is taken into account in some way. However, I haven't sat down and tried to work out the actual attack speed formula yet, and more tests may be necessary to gather more data. Just wanted to bring this to your attention and hope that others would test it themselves, either refute my results and point out my errors. This is some dry reading. It was back in 2009. Huh. Seems like this is honestly a little bit too deep into the realm. I'm not really sure this is something that I'll talk about during the video. Do I think that I'll start PvP soon or one day? I don't know. I'm really not sure. PvP, I used to be really big into PvP, but not as much anymore. I get very aggressive. I get very aggressive in PvP. I don't even know if you want to see me in PvP. Alright, let's do this video on Frenzy. I think I've learned pretty much everything I can with Frenzy here. And should have more than enough information to do a video on it. So 3, 2, 1, let's jam. I said let's jam! Dang it! Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Skills and Abilities. Today we're going to be looking at one of the last barbarian skills. I think I only got like 2 more left after this one, Stun and Concentrate. We're going to be looking at Frenzy today. Frenzy is a very powerful ability that has some interesting uses. In fact, there are some monsters in the game that are very formidable and very scary because of Frenzy. If you guys are unaware, the Death Lords and Blood Lords and Moon Lords, the big giant minotaurs with the double axes, they use Frenzy. And the reason why you can tell that they use Frenzy is because as you use Frenzy, you obtain a special little wispy doodad that goes around your body. It goes, you know, it looks like little wind blades or whatever you want to call it. And these little wind blades, they gather, and the more stacks you have, the more little wind blades you have around your character. And eventually it gets to the point where you have a full stack and you have multiple little wind blades constantly moving around your character, which are increasing your attack speed, your run speed, your attack rating, and all sorts of things. And they're absolutely kind of cool. But you can see these on the monsters as well. So when the monsters are utilizing Frenzy, you know they're utilizing Frenzy because they have the same wispy little wind blades going around their character. Now, Frenzy has a lot of synergies. And this is a kind of thing that we need to talk about. So we have a double swing synergy, which is 8% per level. That is right here. We have a taunt ability, which is 8% per level. Now, taunt is probably not one that you want to build. It does have some interesting uses, and I did make a video on it earlier if you want to check it out. But it's definitely a little bit less useful than some of the other synergies that are in this list. We also have increased stamina now, which was a recent addition in one of the 2.4.3 or 2.5 patches. I can't remember which one. But what it does is it adds duration per level. So by default, Frenzy is 6 seconds. And with at least 1 point in increased stamina, which most people have because they like to get the increased speed, you should be sitting at 6.4 seconds. Now, if you cap out increased stamina at 0.4 seconds per level, you can increase the duration of Frenzy to a total of 14 seconds now, which does make the stacks last for quite a bit longer. Now, it is very interesting to note that because Frenzy takes a little while to get moving, you know, like a heavy train, you know, and eventually it gets up to speed. Once it's at speed, it stays there for a little while, and then it takes a little while to slow down. Well, Frenzy takes a little while to speed up. You got to hit some targets, you've got to get your stacks running, and then once you've got your stacks at their highest, they're going to last for 14 seconds. Now, the way that Frenzy works is that if you hit a monster one time at any point during the duration, you will refresh the duration for another 14 seconds. It's essentially like resetting the countdown. So when you are a Frenzy Barbarian, if you're running a Frenzy Barbarian, all you have to do is make sure that you tap a monster some point before the end of that duration. You can count it out in your head. You can, I don't know, like maybe use your toes if you've got to, or just like pretend that you understand exactly how long it's been. But you'll get a feel for it eventually, and you'll be able to keep your Frenzy stacks running no matter what. You don't actually have to kill anything. You just run up, tap them once, refresh the Frenzy. And as you can see, the Wispies are still going over my character as long as I'm tapping monsters. Now, if I stop tapping monsters for 14 seconds, they will disappear. Now, if they disappear, you have to rebuild from 0. And this is important because if you take a look at the Frenzy ability, you'll see that it gives me an attack speed of 7 to 31%. So the first stack is only 7% increased attack speed. The first stack is only 47% increased run walk. And that means that I've got to build my stacks back up to their maximum to get the full effect of the ability again. Which is why it's advantageous to have, number one, a longer duration on your Frenzy, which means you won't have to worry about it running out. And number two, making sure that you're tapping those targets to keep your stacks at their maximum so that you don't have to worry about, you know, rebuilding from 0. In fact, developers, if you're listening, I think it would be really cool if there was a little buff down here that showed the number of stacks that you have, or the number of seconds you had left on your stacks, or maybe both. You can have a little box that pops up and has like the number of stacks, and then up to the maximum number of stacks, and then has a countdown which shows how long you have until the stacks, you know, deplete. That way it would be easier to micromanage, you know, the Frenzy stacks themselves. Now, speaking of the Frenzy stacks, some of the effects of Frenzy will apply to other abilities, and some of them won't. Okay, so as you can see here, we have an attack rating bonus of 149%. This does not transfer to the other abilities. So anything that has to do with attack rating on this will not transfer to something else. The damage bonus does not transfer. So the 133% damage bonus does not transfer to any other ability. However, the attack speed and the run walk speed do transfer to other abilities. So for instance, if I were to go and build some Frenzy stacks, and then utilize an ability like Whirlwind, just as a silly example here. So I could put Whirlwind on my other hand. I could make sure I've got my Frenzy stacks to maximum. And then when I'm Whirlwinding, I would have the run walk speed bonus and the increased attack speed bonus while I'm Whirlwinding. And this is kind of nice because if you have that additional increased attack speed when you're using other abilities, you can much more easily hit the higher breakpoints. And all you have to do every now and then is just stop, tap a target to continue. Now, when it comes to Frenzy, you can level it up pretty far. In fact, the increased attack speed and the run walk speed go up as you level the ability. And you'll notice that right now I'm at 7% bottom, 33% top for attack speed, and then 47% run walk, 138% run walk for its top. And then as I level it up, you'll notice that the bottom doesn't really increase, but the top, the maximum, goes up. So as I'm increasing it, as I hit level 20 here, I have now 45% to my increased attack speed and 182% to my run walk. And as you add in other skills, like for instance, if you've got a torch, if you've got yourself an Annie and whatnot, and I'm going to put in my hack Danny real quick. Oh, no, those are my +1. You notice now we're at 46% increased attack speed, 185% run walk, And then I have a cheated +7 Annie in here, which I could show off if I want to go even higher. Oh, where's my cheated Annie? Come on. I probably threw it away. I probably threw my cheated Annie away. But this will give you a fairly nice percentage of increased attack speed and run walk. So if you were using Frenzy specifically for the purpose of getting the increased attack speed and the run walk, you don't have to build any of the other synergies because the double swing synergy doesn't affect the Frenzy buff. The taunt doesn't affect the Frenzy buff. The increased stamina does. That increases the duration. And the berserk damage doesn't increase the Frenzy buff. So the only thing that really helps you if you're just trying to get the Frenzy buff for another ability is the increased stamina, which is going to give you extra duration so you don't have to stop to attack and refresh it as often. The difference between 6 seconds and 14 seconds is pretty massive when it comes to, forcing you to stop all the time and refresh your stacks. And the less that you have to refresh your stacks, the better. Now, it's also kind of important to note that Frenzy isn't really like its own special ability. It's actually just double swing. A lot of people don't know this, but Frenzy is actually just a crappier version of double swing. Not only is it a crappier version of double swing, it also is lacking some of the most amazing things that double swing has. So for instance, one of the problems with double swing is that every single time you swing, it applies its mana cost on each swing of the attack, which means that it actually takes 2 times the amount of mana to use the ability that it actually states. However, double swing, when it hits level 8, no longer costs mana. So that bug, or whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. However, Frenzy doesn't have the same cool thing. So Frenzy costs 3 mana per attack, no matter what level. And it also applies that mana on each swing, which means it costs 6 mana for each attack sequence of the ability. And it's also, like I said, a lot slower than double swing for some reason, and I think that's just simply because it has all the IAS. And once you get the IAS running, once you build up the steam with Frenzy, it definitely is a lot faster than it seems. We also have all the synergies. So building all these synergies is a lot of points. You got 20 points into Frenzy, right? That's already 20. You got 20 points into double swing, that's 40. 20 points into taunt, that's 60. 20 points into berserk, if you want to build that, which is 80. And then if you really want to go even further and max out the increased stamina, that is 100 points to max out Frenzy, which is absolutely insane, and is going to cost you the majority of the points that you have as a character. You have very few points left at that point. Now, you will have a maxed out double swing without the synergies, which you can utilize with Frenzy if you want to, or you could go with something like Whirlwind or any of the other interesting things. It's also important to note that the Berserk synergy doesn't work the way that's stated. So when you level up Berserk as a synergy for Frenzy, it says that it adds 20% magic damage, and it states it in a way that makes you think that it is a bonus damage on top of what you have. So for instance, if I were to go to like my regular attack here, my regular attack says I do about 2,204. So you would assume that it's 2,204 plus 20%, which would give me 2,644. So an additional 440 magic damage, right? But that's not actually how it works. It actually works really stupidly. What it does is it takes your 2,204 and it subtracts 20%, which is the physical damage, 440.8, which leaves you with 1,763 physical damage, and then it adds 440.8 magical damage, which brings you right back to 2,204. You have gained no damage, and you have lost no damage, but it has converted 20% of your physical damage into magical damage, which does increase your damage output slightly, because magic damage is, of course, more effective than physical damage normally. unless you have a monster that's under the effect of amplified damage and they're at negative 100%, in which case you've lost damage, because in that situation you're actually doing less. But in most situations, the magic damage will actually be doing more than the physical damage that it replaced. This is some sort of bug in the way that it works and also in the way that it's stated. And it would be nice if they fixed the tooltip to say something more along the lines of converts 20% physical damage to magic damage. I think that would be much more clear than how it's currently stated. Is there anything else? Shared synergies. This is one that I think is important for this. So, Frenzy has a synergy with Double Swing. Double Swing is a very good synergy for this particular ability, and if you're going to build Frenzy, you're probably going to build Double Swing. Double Swing is also the synergy for Double Throw. So as a throw barbarian who is going to build Double Swing anyway, a very good thing to do is also get Frenzy and build that as well. And what you can do as a double throw barbarian is you can utilize the Frenzy increased attack speed and increased run walk speed while you are double throwing, which is also very, very nice. In the same way that we utilized it with Whirlwind, you also then are utilizing this increased attack speed and the run walk to make your time throwing your weapons easier as well. And as I said before, you just need to make sure that you tap them every once in a while to refresh the stacks. And you don't really have to build the synergies for Frenzy. Again, like I said, in this situation, you're pretty much just building the skill itself for the bonuses, the Frenzy bonuses, which is the attack speed and the run walk, and you're ignoring pretty much the rest. The run walk speed bonus on Frenzy. I feel like we need to talk about this as well. So Frenzy's run walk speed bonus seems to be separate from the run walk speed bonus that is what we would consider normal. So I've explored this in exhausting measure with a character named Sanic the Hooge Hag. He has a couple videos. Sanic the Hooge Hag has a legitimate video, and then he also has a cheated video in which I explored how fast a character could possibly run. And Frenzy was definitely a component of this. And what I encountered is that run walk from things like boots or charms or, like swords, whatever it may be, run walk in the normal form is one form of run walk. This form of run walk is kind of like off to the side and by itself. Vigor, which is an aura, is also off to the side by itself. It affects run walk separately than the way that your generic run walk does. Burst of speed is also off by itself in its own category and doesn't function the same way that run walk does on your boots. And then on top of that, Frenzy is also on its own in its own little category. And for some reason, it seems like they split up run walk into 4 separate places. Your run walk on your items is category number 1. Vigor, which is an aura, is category number 2. Burst of speed is category number 3. And Frenzy is category number 4. And then finally, Charge is category number 5. All of which seem to be in their own little worlds, and they modify run walk in their own specific ways. And when combined, all together can make the character run insanely fast, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. For instance, let me pull off my Vigor Aura real quick. And I'm going to show you what it's like. This is a character with just faster run walk. So capped out faster run walk as high as it can possibly get. Now let's apply burst of speed. And you notice I'm going a lot faster. Even though burst of speed only increases my run walk by 70%, I've now increased tremendously over what I was before. Now let's apply our Vigor Aura. Now we're going even faster than than we were before, because the Vigor Aura and the Burst of Speed are modifying my faster run walk differently than the faster run walk on my character. And I have a lot of faster run walk on my character, let me tell you. My character is currently at, even without the Burst of Speed and the Vigor, I'm currently at 3,892% faster run walk, which is just absolutely mind-bogglingly insane. And then you can add in Frenzy into the mix. And this is where things get really crazy, because Frenzy increases your faster run walk again, even further, by another 174% when you have all of the stacks. And with all of the stacks, you end up with ridiculous, oh my god, speed that doesn't make any sense. I've never really kind of figured out exactly what the hell's going on behind the scenes and why these calculations work the way they do, but it's important to note with Frenzy that Frenzy's run walk speed modifier is not the same as what's on your boots. It is a different run walk speed modifier entirely. And the way that the game treats the run walk that is given to you by Frenzy is weird. And all of the items, all of the abilities that do things that increase run walk seem to be in their own little worlds. Blaze, which is a new one that was added in by the developers in patch 2.4, I think, adds run walk now. Blaze also increases your faster run walk in a way that it probably shouldn't. If I take off my helmet here and... let me save and exit and rejoin real quick. And you notice, I'm pretty fast right now with my ridiculous 3,785%. But if I let myself get hit by a monster... look at how much faster I am with Blaze. Just Blaze. Nothing else. No Vigor Aura, no Burst of Speed, no Frenzy. Just Blaze, and I'm already ridiculously fast. And Blaze doesn't even really add that much faster run walk. So always think about these faster run walk abilities like Blaze, Vigor, Burst of Speed, and Frenzy as different than regular faster run walk. And I hope I made that evidently clear by showing you ridiculous examples like this Sanic the Hoojhag character. Sanic the Hoojhag is not done, by the way. I've got a couple more ideas on how I could potentially make him even faster. Just you wait. I think that's pretty much it for Frenzy, though. And as always, thanks for watching, and keep watching. All right, guys and gals, I'm going to have to go pick up this Chinchilla that we have to name. And I guess my next stream will probably be with a cute little baby Chinchilla in my hands. Yeah, which we're going to have to name, by the way. Hope you guys are ready to do some naming. I hope you guys are ready to do some naming. I was actually thinking there's a couple ways I could make him faster. So it's pretty difficult to make him faster, but I'm just going to go over a couple ways in my head that I was thinking. Illegitimately, because we've already kind of explored all the maximum ways that you can make him faster legitimately. There's a couple other avenues I was thinking about making him legitimately or illegitimately faster. Number one is to put plus to skills on the charms. I believe I can put +7 to skills on each charm. Doesn't really matter, but just having +7 to all skills on as many charms as possible would get me to level 99 Frenzy, which would definitely beef up the run walk speed as much as humanly possible. It would also beef up my increased speed, which would give me a little bit more out of that. I was also thinking of giving him charges. So Paladin charges to see how fast he could possibly charge while utilizing all of the speed buffs that he has, which sounds rather interesting. I can't make the blaze any higher level, unfortunately. I think that's as high as it can possibly go. Burst of speed is as high as it can possibly go, so that's already capped out. Vigor, I believe, is level 31. Now, I could potentially make Vigor higher. I can't make it any higher on a single item. However, multiple items do stack. So, I could theoretically put Vigor on multiple items and have it stack up to level 99, which means that technically I could do like a level 31 Vigor on my sword, a level 31 Vigor on my other sword, which would be like, what, 62, and then 93 for the helmet, and then another, like, whatever on something else to get it to level 99 Vigor Aura. That could be interesting. So bringing up the Vigor Aura as high as I could possibly get it. I don't even know if Vigor actually even goes up that high. It might have a cap on its total run walk increase, but we could always see. And then I'm not sure. I think that might be as fast as he can possibly be. I think the next video I'm going to put out is probably going to be Sanic the Hooge Hag initiates Ultra Instinct. That's right. Sanic goes Ultra Instinct, boys. Harmony Bow.
I'll put that to good use. Good day.
I'm going to crash Sanctuary with all that speed. I hope I crash the game. That was originally what I thought was going to happen when I made the character this fast. I thought I was going to crash the game. It never happened. This made me sad. I wanted to crash the game, but it never happened. All right, guys and gals, I'm going to get this Chinchilla. I will see you guys later. As always, thanks for watching, and goodbye for real this time.